Chapter 157. The majority of the party-goers, most of whom were ordinary people, were busy laughing and chattering, seemingly oblivious to this peculiar situation. However, only those who had manifested their second gender were unable to breathe properly, feeling the massive energy that Kishir exuded throughout their bodies. How could such a strong presence emanate from one person? They thought they had grown somewhat accustomed to the intense energy that Kishir carried around, having observed him up close for a while, but the sensation they felt now was different, in a different dimension. Just when Gakane almost leaned against the wall due to the overwhelming pressure, Kishir suddenly withdrew his energy. Gakane, who should have quickly entered the hall alone to deliver the letter handed over by Lenore's servant to him, gasped hurriedly to endure the suddenly vanished pressure, having completely forgotten his mission. "It's been a while, Keol the Diarca. I thought you had left, not seeing you around. It seems you have been rushing around somewhere." Kishir, who casually took a glass filled with a beverage from a passing servant's tray, opened his mouth naturally towards Keol, whose breath hadn't fully returned yet. "Ah, yes." Even Keol, famously known for his unpleasant demeanor, strangely wilted in front of Kishir. It was fortunate that Kishir approached first, since he came to meet him. But, to be honest, Kishir was not someone he wanted to meet one-on-one. Did he notice something already and approach? Keol hadn't thought that any particular energy which only the ones who had manifested their second gender could feel was emanating from his body. However, he was sensitive enough to notice the gazes glancing at him and Kishir from all around. Among them was, of course, Crown Prince Kishtian. Given that the insufferable Duke of Paleta had approached Keol first, it was understandable for Crown Prince Kishtian to be apprehensive. From afar, his third brother, who came with him, bulged his eyes and signaled him to come over. Everyone seemed to be pretending not to watch, but they were all highly alert to what the two would say to each other. If it were a normal situation, I would have quickly left the Duke of Paleta's presence before arousing any suspicion. Unfortunately, he couldn't do that now. Keol thought of the man with black hair he left behind. That insolent and annoying man who only spoke without knowing the hierarchy due to his chubby face. He who had dared to threaten to put him, who didn't even know the status of the Diarca family, into eternal sleep if he didn't help, had forced Keol to make a spine-chilling vow. That man was currently enduring an inexplicable pain in a small room. Why on earth did I follow him and come here to do this? Keol had regretted following him countless times on his way back here. He even thought it might be better if the Duke of Paleta and the cavalry members were gone by the time he returned. However, Duke Paleta was still here, and he even approached quickly enough that Keol didn't even need to think of an excuse to start a conversation. While trying to erase the face of the black-haired man, who was a constant annoyance, Keol forced his brow to smooth in an effort to not display his discomfort. "I stepped out to get some fresh air, but I got lost on my way back." "Really? Didn't you visit here last year as well? It's surprising that someone like you, who frequently visits the palace, would lose their way." Kishir, feigning surprise, soon nodded with a smile. "But I suppose that could happen in Deluma Palace. After all, it's said to be a place where the magic of the Archmage Luma still lives and breathes, and sometimes paths appear that weren't there before." "Is that so? Damn this Duke Paleta." Keol cursed inwardly at Kishir's face, which wore a mocking smile as if he were the fool. "Damn it, I need to speak up and get out of here, but I can't think of what to say because he keeps making unnecessary comments. Without knowing Keol's growing impatience, Kishir continued speaking with a calm face. You smell different today. Have you changed your perfume? No, I'm not sure. You seem to have a keen interest in scents. Why was he making such a fuss about a perfume? Kishir whispered slowly in a low voice when Keol replied with a grimacing face. I'm quite interested. Among us awakeners, there are occasionally those who emit scents that ordinary people cannot perceive. It's much stronger than body odor, and sometimes it even rubs off on the third person who has been with the person emitting the scent. Quite a fascinating phenomenon, isn't it? Keol didn't understand what Kishir meant by these words. However, upon hearing the word awakener, he saw an opportunity to bring up his purpose and quickly opened his mouth. I don't know much about the power of the awakener, or rather, I'm not interested in such things. I heard there's something called manifestation. Is that related? He hoped that Kishir would catch on, but his face remained unperturbed. Do you know about second gender manifestation? Interesting. Who told you? Who told me? He felt instinctively that this was the optimal moment to pass on the information he had intended. Keol lifted the cup to his lips as if to try to take a sip of his drink and spoke in the smallest voice possible. Someone said that if I mentioned this, Your Grace would understand. A bitter tasting sip of drink left a trail down his throat. Keol, who had put down the cup, stiffened his shoulders in surprise when he saw Kishir's red pupils strangely glowing. What is this? Indeed, my assistant has left his seat earlier and has not yet returned. I thought he might have lost his way, being fascinated by the magic like you. You two know each other, right? Yes, we have met. It was a conversation without a clear subject, but both could vaguely guess the meaning. My assistant had been consistently requested by the Diarca family to be sent from the cavalry. I thought you were still angry about that incident, but it seems not. To be honest, I was only intimidated. Intimidated, you say? Hiding his lips behind the cup and murmuring in response, Kishir's eyes thinned into a smile. Thank you for telling me. I won't forget to repay you for this favor in the future. Kishir turned and vanished towards the terrace. Only then did Keol let out a thin breath and relax his tensed body. He realized he had been much more on edge than he thought, which irritated him. Helping that guy. It was all because of the oath. If it hadn't been for the damn oath, he wouldn't have dared to have a loud conversation with Kishir in front of the crown prince. Keol, have you gone mad? How dare you converse with Duke Paleta in the presence of His Highness the Crown Prince? As soon as Duke Paleta disappeared, his third elder brother scolded Keol with a low voice. However, the admonishment did not frighten him in the least. He was an annoying presence, always sulking and jealous of Keol, for he himself could not gain even a sliver of their father's attention. Compared to the wrath of the dark-haired cavalry member who recklessly threw punches at people, his brother's mild hostility was laughably feeble. I didn't say anything special. He approached me and started talking. I just responded. What did I do wrong? As Keol retorted sharply, his brother's face turned beet red with embarrassed anger. I knew you were getting complacent because you're father's favorite, but today you have gone too far. When we get home, I'm going to tell father everything that happened today. So do it or don't. Ignoring his brother's words, Keol turned his gaze, only to be startled upon realizing that Kishir, who'd just been in the hall, had suddenly vanished. It was a mystery how such a tall figure with a strong presence could disappear in an instant. Ah, that's right. I forgot to tell him the last bit the cavalry member had said. Hadn't the cavalry member said that Kishir didn't need to come? A slightly uncomfortable feeling came over him, but he decided it wasn't very important. After all, he'd given most of the necessary information. That should be enough for the man to bow in gratitude to Kyol. Even with Kishir's brief absence, the atmosphere of the party did not change. Some had left for home, but most were engrossed in discussing who might have been behind Lenore's death and the assassination attempt on the Crown Prince. In the center of everyone's attention, the concerned Crown Prince Kashtian maintained his dignified demeanor, but his mind was elsewhere. He discreetly called over a servant who had been keeping an eye on his surroundings and engaged him in conversation. Did you find the strange man who knocked out the servants and disappeared? Not yet, Your Highness. Your skills are less than I expected. But, Your Highness, nothing had yet transpired against your commands. They say there were no signs of anyone entering the underground storeroom, so perhaps the servants fainted for some other reason. Some other reason? Facing the gaze of the Crown Prince, the trembling servant opened his mouth to reply. I thought it might be due to the magic left behind the Archmage Luma in the Deluma Palace. There was a report of encountering the Armor Knight earlier, so I judged there was a possibility that the fainted knights might have unknowingly provoked the Armor Knight. Why are you the one to make that judgment?